Amos Gilead is a retired major general with the Israel Defense Forces and an intelligence and military expert. And I asked him earlier what steps he expected Israel to take next.
No, I'm not assessing what the Prime Minister will do. I think that we need to keep our privilege, of course, to have the right operation in due time. Anyway, we are in war with Iran using proxies in order to attack us from all sides of Israel. And Iran itself is very hostile, not only to Israel, to the whole region and to the Western civilization, if I may say. And they are threshold nuclear power. So generally speaking, Iran is very hostile, rogue state, and it's one stage of this ongoing struggle. That's the way we need to see it.
Let me rephrase it then. What should a response
or not,
look like?
that's a matter of, sorry?
What should a response look like then, without risking a major regional conflict?
What does it mean, a result? First of all, we have been attacked. I mean, we need to respond, but in due time and in a way that will serve our national security interest. It does not mean we need to react immediately. We can take time. We can be tolerant. We can be, it's a matter of wisdom also. Yeah. We don't need to do what they are expecting us to do.
That was Amos Gilead speaking to us earlier. Well, Marina, a military analyst from King's College in London, also gave us her view on what could be Israel's next steps.
Good day, Nicole. It's a very difficult question because we don't know how Israel will react. And indeed, on the one hand, we have a lot of international pressure, most notably from the United States, but also from Germany, the United Kingdom, on Israel to basically not respond. And the allies made it very clear that they will not be involved in any counterattack on Iran. On the other hand, for Benjamin Netanyahu now, this is a huge problem because he has hardliners, which are important to his political future, who are saying that Israel's response has to resonate throughout the Middle East. Israel has to respond and to respond heavily in order to reestablish its own deterrent, which has been eroded after the October 7th attacks. So it's a very difficult situation, specifically because if Israel is to retaliate heavily against Iran, there is no certainty that the allies will come to help a second time. And of course, it also puts into question the allegiance of the Gulf countries who have allegedly helped. Jordan has helped, we know that, but some of the others, like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, they try to kind of distance themselves from this, but still they provided intelligence. And so they will have to be choosing between Israel and Iran, in a sense. Of course, they are no friends of Iran, but this will be a very difficult situation for them, given the power dynamics that exist in the Middle East. Yeah. So it remains to be seen which way Israel goes.
Yeah, but behind closed doors, you know, whatever analysts you speak to, it seems like neither Iran nor Israel seem to be all too interested in an all-out war. This looks like we're in an eye-for-an-eye situation, though, with neither side wanting to be seen as weak. How big do you consider the danger of this spiraling further out of control?
Well, the problem here is that Iran didn't want an all-out war. It wanted to redraw the red lines. And this strike, which many said, oh, it was a strategic failure for Iran, was actually a very smart strategic move, because without causing any destruction, it managed to redraw that red line. Now, for Israel, Israel cannot afford a war right now because it's already at war. And it depends on the support of the allies, most notably the United States, in order to achieve its objectives in Gaza. So neither of them want a war, but neither of them want to risk their reputation. And specifically Israel, which believes to be surrounded by enemies, and we don't know how far the Abraham Accords will go in this sense, because of the October 7th attacks, everything has been put on hold. So Israel has to demonstrate its strength in order to deter those potential enemies, such as Hezbollah, for instance, or Ansar Allah, the Houthis in Yemen, to not attack Israel. So there can be also a miscalculation. For instance, imagine that attack that Iran launched would have led to deaths of civilians on Israeli soil if not everything had been shot down. So there is a risk of also these unknowns that could lead to an escalation without either side wanting one.
Yeah. A rather big unknown is Iran's nuclear program. We know that it is evolving. We don't really know where it stands. How much should that factor into Israel's calculations here?
Well, I think it will factor in a lot if we remember that Israel has already made an attempt to undermine it back then when launching Stuxnet. But the problem here is that this time Israel might be more tempted to strike directly at military targets and nuclear facilities within Iran. And for Iran, of course, this is exactly why Iran doesn't want a war, because it wants to finish its nuclear program, develop nuclear weapons in order to have a solid deterrent against Israel and against the United States. So certainly that will be something that is factored in. That being said, we don't know how Iran will respond then should Israel launch any direct strike on Iranian nuclear facilities, or maybe there will be a more covert way to try to undermine it.
We're joined now by Jürgen Hardt. He's the foreign policy spokesperson for the opposition conservative CDU in the German parliament. Thank you so much for joining DW, Mr. Hardt. Germany always says it has this profound historical responsibility to Israel's defense, and yet it didn't join the US, UK, France, and Jordan in helping shoot down these Iranian drones and missiles over the weekend. Now, should Germany prepare to do that if tensions keep rising?
First, I would like to state that we are very much impressed about the way the Israelis were able to defeat that attack from the night before last night, together with allies from different countries, but also from some Arab states. We talk about Jordan, probably also Saudi Arabia were supporting that. And that is a huge political progress. And this is a huge political capital now for Israel on its side, to see that there are friends also in the Arab world, that are supporting Israel in its need for defense. And therefore, Israel should have all into account, not only saying what is our answer, but also having in mind what others see on that.
All right, back to my question, though. Does Germany... Exactly. Yeah. Should they take on a more active role in helping Israel defend itself in these kinds of attacks?
I would like to ask that our government, probably we can do it behind closed doors, because not everything can put on the table probably in public speeches. But from my point of view, first, if Israel is asking for armament and ammunition from Germany, Germany should stay to its commitment and deliver weapons to Israel to make sure that Israel is able to defend itself. Second, if Israel sees the chance that Germany can support Israel by defending, and maybe to be well prepared in case that something like happened 2 nights ago can happen again, Germany should be open-minded on that, and the Deutsche Bundestag should be involved as it is necessary with the mandate. We have 2 options. We have this frigate in the Red Sea, the frigate Hessen. She is now close to going back to Germany due to the systematic of that mandate, but we also have air fueling capabilities in Jordan with the German armed forces, German Air Force. Both probably is maybe feasible, but if there is no demand from Israel, we should not use that in that way. Probably it's better for Germany to have a role that way. We replace need of shortage from our allies like UK or US in the region or in Europe, because if they fight for Israel, that we can replace that what they are doing in the region on other fields, for example, in the anti-Daesh mandate we have.
If Israel asked for more support from Germany, for example, by reinforcing that frigate that you mentioned that is already in the Red Sea, would you willing to be the person to put that forward in the Bundestag? Would you actively push for that?
Among friends, it's clear for me that we should take every demand of Israel to us serious, and that we should judge on that in a way, ideally in a way that all democratic parties in the Deutsche Bundestag support that. And I can state that I am open-minded, and I think also my political group, CDU-CSU, is open-minded to every concrete demand. I didn't see that at the moment, but I will not exclude that for the future. Among friends, all should be put on the table and discussed.
All right, that was foreign policy spokesperson Jürgen Hardt for the CDU and the German Bundestag. Thank you so much for your time. And we can dig a little deeper now with Middle East expert Daniel Gerlach. Daniel, welcome to the show. So how much has the status quo in the Middle East changed over the past couple of days, over this weekend?
Well, I think it has dramatically changed, but still it's following certain rules, which is quite interesting. The Iranians notified the Arab neighbors and made sure that the US would be notified in time. They gave Israel the time to prepare for this. But nevertheless, the Iranians took an enormous risk. They jeopardized the life of hundreds of Israeli citizens, probably, because they could not rely on the Israeli air defense to fend off this attack. On the other hand, the ball is now in the Israeli field. The Netanyahu government announced that it will respond, and I think it will take some time because it's not in a hurry to respond, because it's been basically victorious at the moment. And not only it managed to defend off this attack, but also politically it managed to rally around the flag again, to unite the allies behind Israel. And you see, the statements of Jürgen Hardt indicate that very much. It seems to me almost as if Germany and large parts of the Western camp are almost relieved about this crisis to happen, because it takes away the attention of from the Gaza war, from the ongoing war that's costing the lives of Palestinians every day, the dramatic situation in the West Bank, and now everyone who found it more and more difficult to sell their position on Israel to their own public, to their own constituency, can now say, we stand behind Israel in this existential crisis for the country.
So this unprecedented attack could end up playing into Netanyahu's hands, is what you're saying?
Absolutely. I think he even provoked this. Netanyahu is really the master of the game here. He has a tendency towards brinkmanship since recently. Like the years before, he has been in international politics for a long time. And he always tried to avoid a confrontation. But in the last couple of months, he has been pushing for this. He has been provoking the Iranians, and he was, of course, ready, and he knew that the Iranians would respond to this. I think he managed to take the risk to achieve the effect. And at the same time, it didn't cost a single Israeli life so far. So we see that he's really playing this masterfully. And though everyone involved knows this, they're still supporting him at the moment.
Yeah. So the allies are back on his side right now, but they are urging restraint, all of them. Nobody wants to see an all-out war in the Middle East. Who has the leverage to actually get him there? Or is it really also not in Netanyahu's interest to see this spiraling out of control?
Out of control, that's exactly the point. All the conflict parties are trying to push this really to the boundaries and to push the boundaries, but to make sure that they're not losing control. And they could lose control if the escalation went too far. And everyone who is involved knows about this. I think the US are really returning to the role of a powerful broker in the Middle East, because ironically, let's say, in this confrontation with Iran, the US almost is in a mediating position. The US seems now strong and powerful and influential, but they're not a conflict party. I mean, of course, indirectly they are on the side of Israel, but they appear to be a more mediating power. But we should look a bit at the role of the Arab states also in the region, because I think the Arab states are playing an interesting and also constructive role, to the majority. Regardless if it's Saudi Arabia, Jordan, or even Iraq, who made it abundantly clear that they do not want a regional escalation, because they would be the ones who would suffer from it, and they don't want to distract the attention away from the plight of the Palestinians. And of course, they are very much acting in their own self-interest. They want to stabilize their own power, and they need stability, and they need quiet for that.
A lot of leaders are now calling for sanctions on Tehran to kind of ramp up the pressure. Can that really make a difference in all of this?
Well, if you talk about a lot of leaders, then you're probably referring to a lot of Western leaders. And I think the global reality is a bit a different one than from what we've seen 10 years ago when the Iran nuclear deal was struck. I think at the moment we are in a situation where Iran, not only for the first time in its history, has something that comes close to a military ally, which is Russia and others. And we have a global reality in which large parts of the global south are actually not on the Iranian side, but consider the Iranians as being in the defensive here. And I think the Iranians have been benefiting from this change of narrative on the global level to a great extent. And they have China and other global players, the BRICS countries, that are willing to, not to support Iran, but definitely not to condemn it. So when you talk about sanctions, you have to be very specific. The Western sanctions have been very strong and on Iran, and trade has gone down to a pretty minimal level at the moment. And then if you talk about sanctions, you should also ask the people in Iran who are not at all involved in the politics of this regime what they think about it. If you really want to suffocate the Iranian economy more than it already is, ask the human rights defendants, the women that have been rising up 2 years ago. If this is in their interest, I doubt that, to be honest. But this shouldn't give any prejudice on a careful study about the impact of sanctions.
That was Daniel Gerlach. Thank you so much.
Thank you.